You have to include Lyme right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. Hi, my name is Christina Bauer, and I was diagnosed with Lyme disease 5 years ago. Right after my 40th birthday, I had the test drawn 2 weeks before I turned 40, so I wanted to have some sort of clarity with why I was feeling in the dirt, is how I put it. And so I remember feeling really well when I was 7 and 8 years old. I would play in the woods behind my house in Illinois, southern Chicago. And I would come out of the woods playing with my friends with sometimes 2 and 3 different ticks on me at a time. My mom would take them off and look at them kind of to see like what we would do after that. And there wasn't really any information at that time out about Lyme disease and tick-borne illness awareness. So I remember when I was about 9 years old was about the first time she took me to a pediatrician, having significant pains in my legs and my joints. The pediatrician at that time in Illinois said that I had growing pains. He had no idea why or what we could do for it. So that was 2 or 3 times, just a general pediatrician. Then when I was about 13, I developed stomach ulcers. 19, I had full obstruction. Lyme loves the stomach area, and so it had done a number on mine. I had sought all kind of GI help, St. Louis, Chicago, Belleville, you name it. I was trying to drive around finding what might help outside of the box of just taking steroids and a lot of drugs, that I wasn't confident that the diagnosis was accurate. So I continued with pharmaceutical medication, mesalamines in particular, for my stomach. Every time I would have all the major symptoms of Lyme disease, fibromyalgia, joint pain, sometimes migrating joint pain, headaches, severe chronic fatigue, they would tell me that my Crohn's disease was flaring to up the dosage of my medication. And so I would, but I was on the max amount that you could take and I was no better. So I was seeking alternate ways to heal and feel better, because at this point, in my 20s, I was not feeling well. I was starting to have neurological tics. I bartended through college, and I remember holding hot coffee in a cup, and I would have neurological shakes and spill coffee everywhere. Things like that would happen intermittently that told me something more was wrong outside of growing pains or Crohn's disease. I didn't have any of the Crohn's disease symptoms that are common with that disease.
Let's start back from there. I didn't have any.
Remember, I did not have any of the chronic symptoms that are associated with Crohn's disease. So I continued seeking answers why I would have these top 5 symptoms each and every month that would come and go. So it took me until I was, sorry.
Yeah, the chain.
I had an itch.
That's fine, that's fine.
Sorry.
It's the sound, it's not the visual.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So it took me until I was about 40 before I was working with a DO, a very experienced older person. Him and his 2 daughters run a family medicine practice in Rowlett, Texas. And he said, I would like for you to get tested for Lyme disease. And I said, well, what makes you think that? And he said, well, your muscles feel like beef jerky, and you have told me all of the main symptoms of Lyme disease. So he directed me to a website where I ordered the kit from IGeneX, and it did come back positive. About 3 weeks later, I got a call from my general practitioner, who is a DO and practices Western medicine, but very grateful she thinks outside of the box to allow that test. She signed for it and received the results, and then referred me to a popular doctor in Denton that treats Lyme. He is specifically Lyme trained through ILADS, which is important when you go to treat Lyme disease, that you treat it not from old science, I'll just say, but from a point of view of new science that points to the direction that there can be chronic Lyme, and you can get better by treating it in a multi-system approach. So that's what I did, and I treated over the course of 5 years, 3 aggressive treatments. So I got a port working with my first Lyme doctor after a year of antibiotics. I wasn't feeling like I was receiving the best that I could feel. So I got a port to try and go all the way with the treatment, and so I started infusing for 7 months. It was a pretty difficult time in my life. My husband traveled 4 days a week. I do have 4 children and I run a business, so it was a little daunting, but I did drive around and infused while I did my duties, and it all worked out just fine. Then I got rid of that port and started doing some more natural supportive treatments with another doctor in Grapevine, and did an aggressive Lyme treatment there as well, where I had then a PICC line put in. So all of these treatments continued to get me better, but nothing really made me feel better except for some of the more natural supportive treatments. So looking back, I have been on and off sick for about 35 years. I've been treating for about 5. I have significantly lost a lot of the quality of my life throughout the course of being ill. I remember melting into the carpet literally 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I simply just couldn't go anymore. I rolled over on the carpet and looked up at the ceiling and told my husband I'm done. And ever since then, there had been a progression of times where I couldn't get out of bed, I'd had a seizure, or my limbs would go numb and limp. Your body's just so fatigued, you feel like every limb is 1,000 pounds heavy, that I feel like I am so much better now that I've gone through 5 years of treatment. I never stopped not treating. I just didn't do 5 years solid aggressive treatment. I did 3 different aggressive treatments, but I continued for a solid 5 years of supporting my immune system with detox, vitamins and supplements. I did a lot of homeopathy, working with an electrodermal screening technician. I did a lot of body work. I am a yoga instructor, so I tend to get overly flexible in certain areas and so forth, as a lot of fitness people do. So I have seen a big progression in my health and well-being. I continue with my yoga practice. That's really helped me a lot through meditation. The deep breathing has kept me out of a wheelchair and out of bed, kept me moving. So I'm grateful for all of the things that I've found that have been helpful and beneficial to my health, but I think that the most beneficial treatment that I've done so far for sure has been with Wilhelmina Gruen in Germany and working with Michael Wittstadt. So I chose Dr. Wittstadt for several reasons. After seeing a few of the reviews on his Facebook page, and I felt like the feel I got from him, his picture, and reading reviews from other testimonials of patients that had gone to see him for Lyme, I felt like he was a more compassionate and caring individual, that I didn't want to work with anyone that wasn't going to uphold that high standard of compassion that I think Lyme patients deserve. So often you see people, doctors in particular, taking advantage of vulnerable people in our situation and others who are chronically ill or cancer patients, where they're maximizing or finding opportunity to maximize their dollars that they're pulling from people, and they become just a number. And as a business owner, I didn't want to be that person. I try to not be that person in business. I would like somebody to treat me that way in theirs. So I had a good energy feeling from him, and after speaking with my friend Michelle, who was the one who got me to go, I'm so grateful for that. I really felt like it was a good fit for me. He has such great science behind what he does that I felt very confident working with Michael Wittstadt that he had been the director of the stem cell clinic at Infusio for 4 years. I felt confident that he knew what he was doing. The reason I chose him was because he did offer the autologous blood stem cells. And after doing our research, I found that the majority of the people who continued to get better on a consistent basis was that of autologous blood stem cells versus so many others that people have tried that have not turned out very well or have had a consistent success rate. So I feel like blood stem cells don't yield as much as SVF, but or maybe some others, but it is consistent. You have a consistent delivery of stem cells. I gave 615,000 and I got back almost 10 million. I know with SVF you can get hundreds of thousands, but again, there has been research that has shown that you can have up to a 30% bust rate where you spend all this money, you're gone from your family for weeks at a time, and then you get absolutely nothing out of it. I just couldn't stand that chance with the amount of time away from my kids, my business, and out of my life. I wanted to have a consistent, just something a little about Wilhelmshaven in Germany. I thought that it was a beautiful place. It really has a warm, comfortable feel. It's very clean, very modern. When you pull in to Germany, first of all, our doctor picked us up at the airport. That was unheard of by anyone that we talked to. And it's very impressive. He's very hands-on with his patients. He only accepts 4 at a time, so he wants to make sure that he gives quality care. That was another reason that I really was drawn to him. After picking us up at the airport, he took us to our unit that we found on Airbnb. It's a gorgeous little home, had a backyard, a very homey feel. The landlord was even lovely. He met us in the street, waving and smiling. He was just a beautiful soul. And we really enjoyed staying in Germany. Everybody there was lovely. I thought it was completely crazy that I knew how to say gluten-free in German, but they didn't know what that meant because their food is so much cleaner than America's. They don't have a lot of gluten-free there, and even if you say it correctly, they don't know what you're saying. So I felt that we were in good hands all the way around. That was really lovely. The clinic itself was wonderful in that when you pull up, it's an old farmhouse, an old carriage house. So it spans a huge courtyard in the middle and huge brick buildings all the way around. They even give horse lessons in the back, offered by someone other than Wilhelmshaven. But it was just the feeling that you get when you pull around. It's like, oh, finally somebody is going to understand my pain, is going to be able to know what to do with it and help us. So the clinic inside, walking into an, I think it was 18th century farmhouse. It's a little on the older side, but it is completely redone and it's gorgeous. So you walk up the stairs and it's a very nice, open, bright, clean wellness center. A lot of big windows. We let the fresh air in every day. There was balconies that we could go walk in the garden or sit out on the balcony. But the service there was really what I wanted to hit on. It's very compassionate and caring. Everyone there is kind. There are no nurses like at some of the places you go to here in America. That's very medicine-like. There, it's very wellness-centered. Everyone there is a naturopath. So you could ask any of the ladies that were working on you questions about your blood work, and they could have a good, honest answer. If they didn't know or couldn't portray it in English, they would ask Michael. And again, another really good point to hit about why his stem cell clinic versus others. He would pop in the room anytime throughout the day and answer your question. And I thought that was really important. He is so hands-on and really tries his best to give the high quality care that I think Lyme disease patients finally deserve, that they're finally getting.
Okay.
So where I am today, I feel very grateful to have had that opportunity to go to Germany. My family had flown in 2 different grandmothers to spend 2 different weeks. My husband took off work around the 4th of July. It was really a team effort to make it happen. But the treatment there was very customized. And I felt like that was really another big selling point for me versus some of the other programs that are very cookie cutter. I think that everybody's so individualized. There's no one, it's just not possible that any one program can successfully help everyone. So after the therapy there, we did a progression of some tests, week 1, week 2, and week 3. The progression of those tests continued to show that those therapies were working for me. I was having, my blood was looking a lot better. I don't know how much specifics you want right now, but the dark field was showing that there was a lot more healthy cells versus heavy metals showing up. I was getting rid of parasites, heavy metals, viruses was something else we dealt with ozone therapy. And just working on oxygenizing the body and blood, helping to support the body during those 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks, we did a lot of supportive therapies, DMSO, artemisinin, lots of different types of IVs to support the immune system, targeted for people with Lyme disease. So leading up into the stem cells, I felt like I was in a pretty good situation. Some of it was a little on the painful side, but no pain, no gain in this area, I suppose. So nothing was really awful. I thought that that was really wonderful. Every time I felt like I had a headache, or I remembered one day the ozone was killing a lot of virus and I had a lot of fibromyalgia pain, and I told Michael I was in a lot of pain. I even cried a little bit that day. My pain level was about a 6, and he gave me some things right away that over the next 2 hours seemed to help get rid of the headache, the body aches. And by the end of that day, I thought I'd be completely wiped out, maybe in a little more pain, and I wasn't. We rode bikes when we got back to our house. We would walk to restaurants. The German atmosphere was very loving and open and welcoming. After stem cells, I feel like I am so much better already. Today is actually our 3-month anniversary of our stem cells, and we did a whole thymus procedure while we were there. Every day we got a thymus shot. Mine was different than the other patients because I have had the stomach issues that I told you about earlier. So mine was a Lupex thymus that was specially formulated by Dr. Pesic's father, who owns the lab where we did our stem cells. After stem cells, up until this point, I feel like my energy has been better than when I was 8 or 9 years old. It's come and gone. I've been in bed a few days in a row. It's not going to be easy being sick for 35 years on and off to go to a quick fix. I don't think anybody goes into stem cell therapy thinking anything's going to be quick about it. I had read somewhere where it takes half the amount of time that you've been sick to get better. So if I've been ill 35 years, it's going to take me 17 and a half years to get better. I just don't believe it. I'm not going to believe it, and so I wanted to give myself the most supportive therapy that can turn that around and really shorten that healing time period. So outside of that, I no longer have the stomach pain that I had carried with me for 30 years. Every once in a while, I'll get a feeling of pain where my incision is. It's fairly normal to have some inflammation come back to those areas that you've been operated on. And so I feel like that's fairly normal, but my stomach has healed in so many ways, not just one, that I'm really very happy about that, mostly outside of anything else. I no longer am on thyroid medication. I'm no longer taking any pharmaceutical drugs at all. And I am also off of all my hormones and testing perfectly fine. It's been a long journey, but I'm super glad that I've had the support system with my Lyme friends and my family that I've had. And I look forward to continuing this healing journey. I do anticipate that today being my 3-month anniversary, that I'm going to see more changes, but it is definitely a marathon and there's no quick fixes along the way, no sprints. So I am on a post-stem cell protocol that has cut down my supplements that I was taking by probably tenfold. I went to Germany, Michelle and I kind of giggled. I had taken almost everything that I was used to taking that I thought I couldn't get by on a daily basis without these things. Everything in me seemed to test positive for some sort of toxicity or illness that I finally just stopped testing for things. So I am only taking probably 5 or 6 supplements a day, several times a day, but I try to stick with that program. I see posts on Facebook pages where people are saying people have done stem cells and then a year or 2 later test again for Lyme disease and completely are cured. So that's my ultimate goal. I don't want to talk about Lyme if I don't have to ever again, but I'm happy to, as I say, part of healing is sharing your journey and the things that I've learned. I hope that that is what I can pay forward, is to help educate others and share the successes and the tribulations of my journey to hopefully help save the viewer and somebody they may know and love with Lyme time and a lot of money. So thank you. So Michael Whitstack calls via Skype or video messenger every week. We talk for about 30 minutes every week on how I'm doing, any new revelations, things that he needs to adjust in my supplements. I like that everything that he does is completely natural. He's had me order different supplements and add that we never talked about before, progressing from the time that I've left him. So he's flexible and adjusts as you go with how you're feeling that day. So I think that that's really important, that he's willing to be a good listener. That's a huge part of being a good doctor and a good therapist, is being able to listen and truly hear what the patient is telling you. And he's so far done really well with adjusting as I've healed.
Anything else you want to touch on? I mean, it's a lot. You covered a lot, so.
Well, I always like to put in something about pediatric Lyme because my kids got it gestationally from me. So I hope that someday that there is...
Oh, well.
Say what?
You didn't tell you it was rolling.
Oh, I saw the light was going, so I kept talking like, wait, what? So my children got Lyme disease from me gestationally. So my hope is that stem cell clinics will continue to develop across America and beyond, that recognize chronic Lyme disease, how devastating it is for families as a whole unit, not just the sick person, so to speak, or the spouse, but the family as a whole. I remember my 5-year-old at the time had Citizenship Day, and the teacher asked him what would he like to do for the community on Citizenship Day. And he drew a picture of mommy laying in bed and him walking into the room with a big pill, and he said, "I would like to help my mom feel better." So I think it's important that if we can avoid other families from having to witness their moms or their caretakers melting into the carpet, literally, that's my goal, is paying it forward and hoping that more stem cell clinics come up to help children with Lyme disease, and so moms don't have to be in the amount of pain and frustration and disease level that I was in trying to raise 4 children. So people deserve better.